Blowing the tracks off and wiping them down with a good oil makes this thing cut a lot smoother. For a portable sawmill, this thing cuts pretty good. I still think I'm going to upgrade the motor to about 14 horsepower. I really enjoy this sawmill, but if I had it to do over again, I would go with a bigger sawmill. I just don't think 7.5 horsepower on a sawmill is really enough to be effective. It will cut through anything that it's rated at, but you just have to really take your time, even with the sharpest of blades. I got an opportunity to see some of the other sawmills that are running a bigger motor, cutting basically the same thing I'm cutting, and it's night and day difference of how fast they'll go through. I can't change how wide this sawmill will saw, but I can change the motor on it, and that will change how fast it will saw. So this log is not that big, so the best I can do is just square it off and then cut down through the pith of the log and then cut it into 6 2x4s. So now that I'm doing this, I'm learning to study the log better, and you can still get some really stable lumber out of a small log like this. You just got to think it through. As I do this more and more, I would imagine this would just become instinct, but right now I do have to just stop, stand back and look at the log and kind of visualize the cuts and how the end of the board is going to come out looking. If you're really new to sawmills, I recommend you watching a video I put out a couple months ago. It's things you need to know about lumber. And this is stuff that I learned through the School of Hard Knocks, and one of my good buddies just being very patient with me and teaching me. So you can take this knowledge that I've already learned by beating my head against a bunch of trees and start out a little bit better off than I did. Hey, I'll leave the link to that video also at the end of this video. So here we are starting our second cut, and this is a good example of a lesson learned. What I would do when I first started out, I would just take little skim cuts and try to get down to that sweet spot. And I was worrying so much about not wasting any of the log that I ended up wasting a lot of sharp blade on cuts that just didn't matter. I recommend now just go ahead and take that cut, a pretty good cut that you know that's going to get it all the way down to a good square cant. You can really put a lot of wear on your saw and your saw blades by trying to cut down one little cut at a time. You end up cutting 3 or 4 cuts where you could have just made one cut. It's just better to go ahead and take that big bite, and if you cut a little too much, you'll learn as you go. This is an ideal situation where the pith of the log is pretty much even on both ends, so it's going to be a pretty stable log anyway. You can see here though that I did take an aggressive cut. I wanted it to be an 8" by 8" cant. I possibly may have wasted some 1x, but in reality it just wasn't worth the blade wear and the wear on the sawmill to me. In addition to that, if you see at the top, the wood grain would be horizontal on those 1xs, and it's going to be completely unstable anyway. So here's another example of nothing's perfect. You can see I'm going to have a little wane down the side of this one log. Just roll with it. Cut your 8 by 8 cant, and then what doesn't turn out, doesn't turn out. So now that leaves me a nice 8" by 8" cant that I can split in half and then cut 2x4s out of. This is what I was talking about earlier, where I'm really studying the log. So I'm cutting down the center of this log as close to the pith as possible. So if you were like me, I'm just a new sawyer myself, I didn't know what a pith was. It's the heart of the log, the very center of the log. These pines, the pith runs pretty concurrently centered all the way through the log. You'll get into some species of trees that the pith wanders through it. I will have to say that cutting this southern yellow pine has been a real joy. It's hard to tell by the look on my face. I was just deep in the thought, and also this was at the end of the day. We had ran chainsaws all morning long. Went home, take a shower, come back over to the farm here, and was gonna work for quite a while, but ended up just cutting this one log up, and we run out of gas. Still, this one log yielded 6 of the prettiest 2x4s that you just won't see this kind of quality at a box store. So I went through a local box store the other day and was just checking out some 2x4s, and I was looking which way the grain pattern was, and a huge portion of the grain patterns were running from running horizontal, which is going to be more likely to be unstable. Again, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, refer back to the video. I'll link at the end of this video, and it talks about the things you should know about lumber. Hey, I'll quieten down real quick and let you take a few seconds here, and you watch how these quality 2x4s come off this one little log. The throat is just a little bit too shallow for this, and you can see that this is just about the maximum that this saw can handle. I'll probably not go 4 2x4s deep anymore. It's really hard to believe how satisfying it is just to see this done after, I did this. After I take each board off, or as I'm taking each board off, I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, where am I going to use this at? How's this going to play out? Just all kind of projects are flowing through my brain. Now, don't leave yet. I got a little bit more to show you. After I get through with cutting the lumber, I try to always clean my sawmill up. I think it's really important to do these steps. Blow it out, release the tension off of the bandsaw wheel, and then lower the head of the bandsaw all the way down. So this turned out to be mostly rift cut, and this is probably the most stable cut you can make. So this is one of the most important things I can tell you. Stack your lumber after it's done. Properly sticker it and stack your lumber, because otherwise you just wasted your whole day's work.